Hello and welcome to the Big Bang Theory podcast for our new season preview. My name's John. I'm here with my friend and colleague Dan.
Hello.
We're not together. One of us is in isolation, and it's not me for once. Hooray! Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, it got to me eventually, didn't it? I mean, not the actual virus. I'm still got a clean record on that, but I am stuck in the house with someone who's got it.
Caught hacking away
Which
down
is
the corridor.
Fun. Well, it sort of is, but because obviously the way it works, if you've got like the ill person, he's banished to his room, whilst I have free reign of the entire rest of the house, as is only fair.
Nice. That is fair.
Yeah, exactly. Because I haven't done anything wrong.
Well, anyway, listeners, welcome back to our season 2021-22 preview. This is our fourth season as a podcasting duo.
It is season 4, and I think we're fast approaching our 100th episode, aren't we?
I think we are.
No doubt we'll do some special for that. Some special thing.
Yeah, we'll get someone will get out a red book and read all our greatest achievements, and
Yeah, who is it that does that? Parky.
Yeah, Parky. Can we bring him back? Yeah.
Parky, if you're listening, mate, get in touch. We'd love to have you on.
Not Tom Parks, by the way.
No, God, no. Don't want him.
Anyway, so it's good to be back. Thanks for tuning in again for the new season. I don't know about you listeners, but I am excited. Dan, are you excited?
I'm very excited about being able to go to the games.
Yeah, me too. So 1,700 of us nearly have bought our season tickets. I've got my cardboard cutout now back in my house, scaring visitors. We're good to go.
What are you doing with that thing?
It's currently behind the piano.
Right. Okay, so it's not like on display.
No, I put it in the window for one day, and then I noticed my wife or children had moved it behind the piano, which is probably fair enough.
Did you notice a load of gob all over the front of the glass?
No, people had decorated it like they do with like the
shrine.
Virgin Mary. Yeah. Flowers outside, candles were lit. It was good.
I wonder what's everyone else doing with their... maybe that's something people can get in touch with us about. What are you doing with your cardboard cutout? I never got one. Didn't get round to it. But what are you doing with yours? That's what I want to know.
It seems too much of a waste just to chuck it.
Surely not. Yeah, you got to do... I mean, think of there will be opportunities. You think, Home Alone...
Yeah.
Something like that. Didn't sort of use one in that? Something like that.
They definitely did, yeah. Yeah. I thought maybe I could have it sticking out of amusing places, out the chimney, that kind of thing. Anyway, something to think about. Let us know if you've got better ideas than that. We're going to talk today about the comings and goings at the club. We're going to talk about what we've seen of the team so far, what we think our assessment is. And then we're going to talk through a bit of, the games that are rapidly coming up, in fact.
Yeah. There's been quite a few changes, hasn't there, around the place, especially in terms of playing personnel. I'd say it's our biggest kind of reshuffle for a few years. This looks like to me, this is basically Matt Taylor's sort of second sort of go, isn't it? I mean, he had I would count the first 3 kind of seasons as one kind of big squad, and then that's kind of slightly changed. And then this one feels like a kind of different thing, doesn't it? So
it does. So if you've been under a rock, which is possible, of course, or just not bothering to look on the internet, which is also sensible, or maybe you've been distracted by other football that's been going on this summer. I didn't see any of it because Exeter City weren't in the European Championships.
No, we only watch League 2, of course.
But there's a long list of players that have left. Anderson went back to Reading on, the loan ended. Maxted and Ward both left. McArdle gone. Tom Parks gone. And then in the big news, Jake Taylor and Ryan Bowman gone. And then Alex Fisher also gone. Have I missed anyone there?
Randall Williams gone.
Oh, of course, Randall Williams. I mean, he was long gone. He'd been
Robbie
gone
Wilmot gone.
Oh, yeah, back to
Lewis
Newport.
Page gone. Page, remember?
Yeah.
So
okay.
loads of them. And then obviously, the other one being, which we'll come back around to, is Pierre Sweeney, gone.
Yes.
Or is he?
Or is he? So then on the in category, and we'll just go through the list and then we'll talk about some of them. Giovanni Brown in, Sam Nombe in, Josh Coley in, Scott Brown in, George Ray in, Callum Rowe in, Jonathan Grounds in, and Timothy Dieng in, as well as Sonny Cox and Harry Lee signing contracts. And
only this morning, Cameron Dawson in on loan.
Yeah, he's up his creek with a paddle, hopefully. Dawson.
Is he going to bring Pacey with him?
Maybe he is pacey. I'd rather if he brought Joey. I'd be more interested in that. The only Joey we're going to see this year, though, is Barton. Much less attractive proposition for many reasons.
Yeah.
So that's the ins. What are you thinking, Dan? What strikes you about that list? What strikes you about the out list, first of all?
Well, obviously there's a few things we expected. Everyone expected Jake Taylor to go and Rando Williams to go, and I think there's no big surprises there really, apart from Bowman, and that wasn't a huge shock. But I think we were talking at the end of last season about whether or not he would go, and we kind of said maybe it's like could be a good thing, change the way we do things. The whole team was very much kind of revolving around him, wasn't it? And I think that's been that's what's happened basically. Because we haven't replaced him with another Bowman type at all. It seems like we've replaced him with Nombe. Where's he from? He was on loan at Luton last year, but where was he playing before that?
Sam Nombe on loan at Luton, MK Dons player.
MK Dons, that's it. So he's come in for nothing, no fee. He looks a different type of player to Bowman, doesn't he? He looks strong and fast.
He does,
powerful.
Yeah, that's right. And perhaps not as tall as Bowman, but looks as good in the air. Oh, well, he looks better in the air, to be honest, than Bowman. So that's positive.
That's I think is our most. That's our kind of most kind of what's the word, like not lucrative, but that's our kind of like biggest signing, if you will. Do you mean? And
it's
the
kind
biggest
of
name, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's kind of team defining, isn't it? Like he's. Because Bowman was so much the pivot or the point at which things happened through, to change that with a different kind of player who actually looks like he's got a lot about him, that's quite significant for how we're going to play, isn't it, this year?
Well, yeah, and I think that's exactly what we were asking for at the end of last season. So that's looking really encouraging. Who else? So we brought in a few others. Who else is definitely going to play? I mean, the most significant thing is the goalkeeping situation at the moment, isn't it?
Well, maybe Dawson's the solution there. So Scott Brown came in. He Port Vale last year, wasn't he? And played most of their games, but has come in as a coach.
Yeah, Matt Taylor pretty much said, didn't he? He's like, he's not really here to play, but he will if he has to, kind of thing.
And Brown said something similar in his interview, didn't he? He's like, I'm basically retired here.
But then obviously we've somehow managed to sign this youngster Harry Lee onto a pro contract, which none of us were really expecting to happen, along with Sonny Cox. We didn't really expect that to happen, did we? We thought they'd go for nothing. But they're here for a year, and apparently they're going to feature a bit. So with him and then Dawson, that looks like that's the keeper, I guess, sorted.
Well, I mean, obviously Wednesday had a bad season, but that's a championship team, isn't it? And
well, a bit of a reoccurring theme, I'll be honest, with some of these transfers is, and this is only the internet, and so it's not real life, and we know that, but lots of supporters of the teams that these players are from sort of celebrating that they're leaving. And so a lot of happy Sheffield Wednesday fans, although I think it's a bit of a weird one because he's been there since he was a kid.
Right.
And he played almost all their games last season, and a lot of them kind of, maybe, I think it's a bit of a situation where he maybe made a few mistakes, lost confidence, and lost the faith of the supporters, perhaps. So I think it might be a really good thing for him just to drop down a bit, and who knows, maybe at our level he might be unbelievable and might just need that confidence boost to get back to his potential, because obviously it was there at one point,
And let's not forget they had a disastrous season, Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, Gary Monk in charge. It's like,
well, it was all over the place, wasn't it? All sorts of problems. So I think that sounds like a perfectly good signing as a goalkeeper for a year. The player that sticks out to me actually is George Ray, who City fans might remember as being the centre-back who was at Tranmere last year, who decimated both himself and the advertising hoardings.
Yeah, we talked about it, didn't we,
We
at the
did,
time?
yeah, we did. And he really walloped himself and the board.
Absolutely poleaxed by that.
But
hoarding.
I remember him from when he was at Crewe in their promotion season 2 years ago, and that was a really good team. And he was a big part of that defence. That they were kind of on a real roll, that team. So I think that's a good signing, actually, George Ray.
Yeah, he looks tall, doesn't he? And yeah, well, I mean, I don't know much more about him than that, really. But obviously, he played in that Tranmere team last year, who were relegated, but were kind of punched above their weight and actually did a lot better towards the end of the season, didn't they? Is that right? Maybe it's not.
Because they got relegated by the old pandemic, didn't they?
Of course,
so he wasn't
that's it. So that's what I'm thinking.
I don't think
yeah.
he was in that team. I think he was just at Tranmere for last year.
Right.
Who almost got playoffs at the end, didn't they? So no, I think that's good.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So I mean, we've always had a bit of since, I guess, maybe going back further than Matt Taylor, but we've always had a little bit of a kind of centre back issues, haven't we? It's like coming in and it looks like we never really have a kind of solid pair of like. It just seems to be ever changing. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I think that's kind of, we've almost had a nearly had a complete reset this season, didn't we? But then, as we'll come to, Piers Sweeney left and then came back again.
Yeah. So the drama that is Swindon Town, Sweeney was a victim to.
Yeah.
So
this is developing so quickly, this Swindon saga, isn't it? I don't know if we'll be able to cover it in full, but
when he went there, the team then didn't pay him for his first two months.
Yeah. So they still had this dodgy owner, didn't they?
Yeah, Lee Power. So since then, I think he's been ordered to sell by the High Court. But that's why Sweeney left at the time. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think he was good for us last season. I think he showed good character by getting stuck in when obviously Taylor had made it quite clear he wasn't really in his plans.
Yeah, I agree. I like him. I like Sweeney. I think he did have a good especially second half of last season when he played. We know he's got his faults, but what League Two player doesn't, And I think he's good to have around the place. He's definitely good for the younger players. I'm really pleased that he came back.
Yeah.
But now Lewis Ward's gone to Swindon, right? So they must have sorted themselves out a bit.
Well, because they weren't allowed to sign anyone.
Right. Now you got Ward.
So they've got Ward. So I don't know if that's because he was free transfer or what. But anyway, yeah. I thought Giovanni Brown looks like an interesting signing as well. He's got he's got more about him than Randall Williams, I think. Because obviously, as we know, Williams, when he was good, he was unstoppable. But if you worked out how to play him, he would come up short. And I think Giovanni Brown's obviously got much more experience at League Two than Williams did when he arrived. So he's been at Cambridge, he's been at Colchester. Both teams who've been good in the last couple of seasons at various points.
I think Randell on his day is a kind of like is way above League Two level. But maybe you're right. Hopefully Giovanni Brown's a bit more of a consistent League Two guy, and again, a kind of slightly different kind of option. He's not really a flying kind of winger, is he? I mean, it's more of a kind of like, sort of attacker with a bit of power to him, and I think that's another good one. I'm pleased about that. Do you mean? And it looks like that's our kind of him plus Nombe, and then the few of the ones who are left, Joel Randall and people like that. Yeah. It kind of like it's a kind of new look attack, isn't it? And not just in personnel, but in a kind of like the kind of shape, or at least the kind of stature of those players.
Well, if those three plus Jay start...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Matt Jay. A new captain, by the way, Matt Jay.
New captain, of course, Matt Jay. If those four start, that is a formidable attack.
Yeah.
Like, Randall, obviously, when he's good and healthy, brilliant. Nombe looks really good. Matt Jay, as we know, player of the season last year, in the League Two Team of the Year.
Yeah. I think it gives us options to do that kind of four, or to do a kind of we'll come on to it, but we went to one of the friendlies, didn't we? I mean, it looked like we played more of a kind of 3. Now, obviously, Joel Randall wasn't there, so maybe that was just out of necessity, but it was like we saw it with Nombe, Jay and Brown, didn't we? And I thought that looked kind of narrower, like less kind of wing-based, but then without a target man, maybe that's a different option, you know? So, it looked good, yeah.
And I suppose the final kind of piece in the puzzle, obviously there's some other players that we haven't really mentioned, but Timothy Dieng, I
thought you were going to say Jonathan Grounds was the final piece of the puzzle.
I'm not sure that he is. I think that Dieng,
you're right.
He looks like he'll sit with Atangana or instead of Atangana. Obviously got a lot of experience.
Timothy Dieng. How many E's is it? It's got about 4 E's on the end of his name, right?
9.
9 E's,
9
right?
E's.
Okay, so I'll do it longer next time.
Please do.
So yeah, I don't know. It'd be so interesting to see how that midfield looks. Sets up, wouldn't it? I mean, because obviously you've got Collins. Maybe he's going to be in a slightly advanced position, like you said, with maybe like Dieng and Atangana in a kind of England double pivot sort of style, or maybe I don't know. Perhaps we've seen quite a lot of James Dodd as well, haven't we? In pre-season, perhaps and he's looked good. I think, like from the little bits and pieces I've seen online and the one game we've got to, I think he looked really good. And was he injured a lot last season? I know he was out on loan somewhere, but
we didn't have I don't think we had much loan set up.
They didn't play, did they?
I'm not sure where
so
he was.
What was up with him? Maybe he was injured, but anyway, he looks to me like he's going to be involved. At least that's the plan.
Yeah.
But so that's an interesting pick for me, I think, and it's probably the most unknown is what's that midfield going to look like. But lots of nice options.
I think that's right. I think options is key. And I know injuries got us a bit last year, but that feels like a heavier weight bench. There were points last year, and like, what on earth can you do to change this? Everyone who's good's on the pitch. So you bring off Taylor for Atangana, and you're like, that's no better.
But it was after Law left, wasn't it? Suddenly we had no options in the middle there at all, and it was like, oh yeah, and then it came to being like, we got our first choice, and then the only other option for any of those 3 positions is to bring on Nige in any of those. And I'm not saying that Nige is still here, and I think maybe he could still do a job, but he can't do all 3 of those.
No.
You can't just interchange him for any of them. He's got to do one where he doesn't need to be particularly mobile.
Yeah, he's not changing the game, is he?
No.
So that's what it. Well, that's what.
Well, of course, it's not over
like.
yet. There's still a couple of weeks, so there could still be a few more ins and outs.
What would you look for?
Well, what I wouldn't look for is for Josh Key to be leaving, which looks to me like a very real possibility.
I mean,
this was reported on Sky Sports a couple of days ago.
What's been reported, of course, is that Sunderland have offered a deal that's worth £1 million.
Yeah, this is the thing. I think, and you know what they're like. So I saw someone say online somewhere that it was like it'll probably be because it's £1 million including add-ons, which will be probably a tenner up front, and then all the rest in kind of completely impossible add-ons. Like when we get in the Champions League, you can have a bit more. We'll bung you a bit more money, which I don't think we should be. And I'm desperate to keep hold of him. And to be honest, even if it's not what he wants, if it was up to me, I would sort of force him to stay and just say, look, Josh, I know you want to bet yourself. I know you want to earn more money and maybe on this, but sorry, no.
I don't think.
No.
I think if a £3 million offer came in from, maybe that's too ambitious.
Oh,
maybe,
$1 million up front. If it's £1 million up front, yeah, all right, he's got, and he'll go anyway. But then of course, yeah,
But also I think Sunderland is not the place to go.
Well, this is the thing. I don't know if are they still sort of a joke? It sort of turned into a bit of a joke for a while, didn't it?
They're still a disaster. So I think if. We don't want to say it, do we? But if a top-end League One club offers $1 million up front, Argyle or whatever, that's obviously difficult. If a Championship club offers something similar, that's much more difficult. But I think Sunderland, as a can't-get-out-of-League One club that are a complete disaster, offers somewhere in the region of 1 million with the add-ons. We don't need to take that. We know we don't need to take that. And it
very much depends on what those add-ons are, doesn't it? I mean, I think we're not really in a position to, and obviously by the fact that it's their fourth bid, we have been resisting a bit, obviously, haven't we? I mean, and I think probably it's the agents have probably, that's why it's ended up on Sky Sports, because someone's trying to force it through, it's whether we can kind of hold our own or squeeze a bit more out of them,
I just can't see that happening. I think Sunderland are just... And obviously, by now, we're getting to the start of the season, so that means that Josh Key isn't their first choice. Like, they've not been like... It's not like Williams, where Hull wanted him and chased him for 6 months and then got him at the end of the season.
No.
Everyone will know that either Key doesn't want to go or the club don't want to sell him, or Sunderland aren't offering enough. Like, it's not... That's not some brilliant, like, oh, it has to go and the club really want you. And, this isn't Crescenny to Villa or Watkins to Brentford, where... you can really see why a player would want to go. This is, well, actually, City and Sunderland could swap places next year, and they're not even...
I mean, ordinarily, in days gone by, and historically, you'd go like, well, we'd never stop a player going to a club like that, but they're not, like you said, it's they're in all sorts of bother, and it's not quite the kind of lucrative move it would have once been, is it? Do you know what I mean?
And I think Taggy...
I really hope he doesn't go. I really do, because I really think he's going to be so important for us. And he was obviously was, if not our best player last season, then one of our best players. Which is saying something, considering it was his first season playing, men's football, essentially.
I mean, they can show how Watkins, how Williams, how, players that we've held on to a bit longer will absolutely, if they're good enough, the teams will still want them, and in fact better teams will want them. Key's only really had one season. He's not played in front of the fans yet. He's still a young lad. Blah, 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 blah. I don't think it'll do him any harm. He's obviously got loads of talent.
I mean, from what I can see, it's like, he could well go. I mean, he could forget League One. He could easily play in the Championship if he carries on the same kind of path he is now. Now, there's nothing to suggest he will. Maybe that was a one-off. It does happen. I mean, he gets older, but it doesn't look like he looks too consistent, doesn't he, and too level-headed, maybe for that to be likely. I'd say the most likely thing is he's going to do really well in his career and is destined for bigger things than League Two, but hopefully not yet.
So you and I took the coastal road to Weymouth, sunny Weymouth.
And I'll just say this quickly. Weymouth and the surrounding areas, hell of a lot nicer than I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be an absolute dump. And it wasn't. It was delightful.
Yeah, we had a nice time, didn't we?
Yeah, the most important part of this trip, obviously, is nothing to do with the football, is that we had a lovely portion of chips afterwards on the seafront. We
did. Sat by the clock tower. I got to say, Weymouth's clock tower craps all over our clock tower in Exeter. I don't say that lightly.
Ours is kind of bigger, isn't it, and more grand, but, I mean, a simple fix, do what they did. Paint it all different colours.
Yeah, it was like some sort of, when hippies painted their VW Beetles, wasn't it? It was the same kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll bring it up at the next fans forum.
I don't think the football club are in charge of the clock tower on Queen Street.
I must have some sway.
Okay. Although if your clock tower's swaying, you've got problems, of course. So we went up to the Bob Lucas Stadium. That's kind of a weird concrete jungle, but actually was very pleasant to visit.
I loved it. Loved that ground. I'd go there again.
I'd fully recommend, listeners, if you've never been, go and have a look. There was probably 500 Weymouth supporters there, and maybe 100 City fans.
Nice evening, wasn't it?
The stadium seemed to be mainly based around the cafe, which then disappointingly was closed. But what can you do?
Oh yeah, there was. Yeah, the cafe. Huge writing on the side of the stadium, cafe. And then you get there and it's like, here's the opening times. It's open for 3 hours a day, 4 days a week. It's like, I think you've put too much emphasis on this cafe. And it did look good, but I'll be honest, in the bar, and then, you couldn't even get a cup of tea.
Yeah.
So, I mean, If anything, there should be signs saying we really haven't got a cafe.
No cafe. Yeah. Anyway, the City went. So it was a piecemeal game, really. It finished 3-2. But what was exciting was for the first half an hour we had a very, maybe not the exact first choice team, but pretty much.
Yes, we got to see that, didn't we? Some of the friendlies have been like there was one against Bristol City yesterday where it seemed to be essentially a youth side against Bristol City's first side, but in against Weymouth it very much looked like pretty much like there was a few kind of missing, wasn't there? Like Joel Randall and a few that weren't quite fit or whatever, but it pretty much was. Yeah, close to it. It was a strong side for us, wasn't it? At least to start with.
Yeah, so Sparks and Key played on the wings, 3 at the back, Sweeney and Hartridge and Ray. Scott Brown was in goal at that point. And then Nombe up front with Jay and Brown either side of him. And then Collins with Atangana in the middle, wasn't it?
I like the look of that. I mean, it looked like a little bit narrower up front with the wing backs kind of doing a bit more. Whereas last season it was a bit more kind of doubling up on the wings, wasn't it? Like sort of essentially 4 wide men. But this was more like perhaps even maybe too narrow at times up front. But they're kind of like I like the combinations, Jay and Nombe combinations, Giovanni Brown and Nombe combination. It looked really good at times, especially early on. And then unfortunately Brown had to come off, didn't he, quite early. Bit of a knock, but before, and he did score before that, didn't he?
And I mean, as the game went on, of course, it chopped and changed, and Taylor put on 100 subs or whatever. But that first half an hour, I thought, hey, this is exciting. We could have some in here. So there we are. But it was a lovely trip to Weymouth, and we had a lot of chips.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for our Weymouth trip, wasn't it? I mean, it looked.
Yeah, it was.
It was. It was like a bit like watching a different team, wasn't it? Like a new version of our old team, because he's still got plenty of old faces in there, but it looked refreshed, and it got me kind of optimistic. Whereas before that, I'm not saying I was underwhelmed by the signings, and perhaps on one level I kind of still am. But it made a bit more sense to me when you can kind of see it in person, didn't it, And I'm definitely way more excited now than I was before going.
Yeah. I think Taylor did a very sensible thing. Like, in all honesty, the central spine of our team, including the keepers and the centre-backs, and then Taylor and Bowman, who basically didn't miss any games last year.
No.
They didn't get us promoted. They didn't even get us to the playoffs from a very strong position. And I really like Jake Taylor. And, I like Bowman too when he was good. But I just thought, yeah, that's right. Move them on, something new. We can't just be loyal for the sake of it.
Well, I think it was time. And do you mean, like, as much as I kind of like wouldn't have objected to Jake Taylor staying, I think probably like we said at the end of last season, it's a good move for everyone. It's like it's time to try something different, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I meant by it felt refreshed. Whereas, like, even if these aren't kind of like really high-profile signings, it was like it looked new and a kind of like we need a different approach. Like it hasn't worked the last few years. Like out of the last 3, we've got kind of close once, didn't we? When we got to the final season before last. Other than that, we've fallen short ultimately, haven't we? Finished outside of the playoff places and faded. To be honest, at the end of the season, like last season, we started amazing, didn't we? Like brilliantly well and scored all those thousands of goals.
Yep.
But when it came down to it, we were nowhere near, really, were we?
No, that's absolutely right. So, fair play. I think good shout. So, who else would you like to see? There's still a month of the transfer window left. What else are you looking for?
Well, to be honest, everything still.
Okay.
Kind of. Like, I do think we probably do need another striker.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And I would like another centre midfielder, I think.
Yeah.
Although, maybe not, if Dodd carries on the way he is. But I think probably just after last season, how he struggled after we lost Law. Obviously, there's Kite as well, who I think has been another one who's been threatening for a while to break into the first team. And who knows, like this time last season, I would have said we need a right back because Josh Key won't be ready. And now look what we're saying about him,
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I think if it was, unlimited budget and all that stuff, I'd have another centre mid and definitely another striker and possibly another centre back because we haven't got much pace in the back there, have we? I do worry a bit about it being Sweeney and Ray, both not being the quickest players in the world, and then you've got Hartridge, who as much as I think is kind of like probably one of our biggest kind of like potential, players, one of our young players with the most potential. He's not particularly quick either, so we are very slow back there.
Yeah, and then of course there's the erstwhile Sam Stubbs, who we signed in January, who still hasn't played in a friendly, hasn't been on the bench for a friendly. He is back training.
Is he?
Yeah.
I don't even know what he looks like. I always just picture his dad.
Yeah.
It says a lot, doesn't it, when you don't even know someone played for you for a year and you don't even know what he looks like. Is it a year? No.
9 months though, isn't it?
Signed in January, didn't
he? Yeah.
Flipping
I don't know how that's going to go. It's not looking encouraging at the minute.
Hey, Jose's still knocking around.
Yeah, you saw him, right?
I saw him the other day near St James's Park. So I guess he's just not found another team yet, and we're letting him sort of just still knock about the place.
What? Use the Wi-Fi?
Well, he had a polo shirt on, like a proper branded kind of top, So it didn't look like he was just living in Exeter as a working in Sainsbury's. He looked like he was by the ground.
Yeah.
So
unless he's turned up, and it just like if you look like you're supposed to be somewhere, they'll let you in.
Right.
Maybe he's just put the polo shirt on and he's gone along, and they've been like, Nicky, you don't play for us anymore.
Bit of a George Costanza move,
Yeah.
You quit and then just pretend that you haven't the next day when you regret it.
Yeah. Maybe that's what's happened.
Maybe. So you never know. Maybe we haven't seen the last of Nicky or Jose. Although
he's gone out on the pitch. He's gone out on the pitch and he's just like kicking balls into the goal and being like, I've scored 10 goals this week, Matt Taylor. Taylor's like, Nicky, you don't play for us anymore. And he's like, no, come on.
I've signed Nombe. We've got, yeah, so you never know.
I've got a new girlfriend, Nicky.
Hope springs eternal.
He's called Sam Nombe. Well, anyway, that's I think there's still people to add, isn't there? Interesting that we've gone for the keeper on loan. I mean, I guess we were holding out for Andreasen, weren't we? Who's gone to Morecambe?
I think so. I think a lot of these places, like Taylor's almost said, with a lot of it, we've kind of missed out on targets. I think that's been the case, and I think probably he's thought it'll be easier to sign some players than it has been, and what can you do? There's a few others we haven't even mentioned, isn't there? We've got the likes of like Callum Rowe and Josh Coley, who are kind of younger kind of players, but could play a big part. You never know. Do you mean I'd imagine there were more kind of like ones for the future, but you never know. Maybe they'll be the big thing.
Indeed. So that's the look of the squad. We'll be back in a minute to talk about the new teams in the league and the games coming up. Welcome back to our 2021-22 season preview. The league's obviously got a different shape again this year. The new teams from the conference, we've got Sutton United, who we haven't played in a long time, and Hartlepool, who we've played quite recently. So Sutton's obviously a London team, so that's kind of local-ish to us.
Well, there's a lot of Southern teams this year, isn't there, compared to last year when there was a lot of Northern teams.
Yeah, it swung quite a lot, isn't it?
But it's quite good because, obviously we weren't able to go anywhere last season, and with a bit of luck, this season, that's quite a few away days that are quite doable, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
I mean,
so then,
some of the hardcore would say they're all doable, but I'm not getting up at 4 a.m. Sorry.
So in the relegated teams from League One, Bristol Rovers back down with us, which is obviously very nice and local. Swindon, not too far at all, and Northampton, not too bad either. And then Rochdale, back in League Two. So, yeah, the thing's kind of changed quite a lot, hasn't it, actually? Obviously, it changes every year. But
do you think this is a stronger League Two than it was last season? I kind of tend to think that it is.
Well,
I suppose that's based on reputation, I think, possibly, but because obviously, like Swindon could be this year's, Southend, couldn't they?
They could. I mean, they're not in a good state, and obviously Bristol Rovers have got problems with their stupid manager and his stupid fist. So I could see that falling apart.
That's Barton, is it there?
Barton's at Bristol Rovers.
Right, yeah.
Who's obviously a complete disaster zone, but does sometimes know how to get football teams winning.
Yeah, only a matter of time till he messes it up, though, isn't it? As everybody knows.
I would think so. Swindon don't have a manager currently.
Right, yeah. So, like on paper, it kind of seems like, this is a difficult one. Whereas last season, maybe it looked a bit easier.
Yeah.
Which was reflected in the fact that kind of Cheltenham won it, But
yeah.
But yeah, like you said, there's a lot going on, and doesn't necessarily mean anything. And I mean, we would have said the same thing a few seasons ago about Bradford City, who would play on the first day. Once of much higher status than they are now, but now very much just look like an average League Two team, who I, to be honest, would expect to beat. Although
Indeed.
They do have old Derek Adams there now, don't they?
They do. So he took Morecambe up, and then he's moved directly on to Bradford City.
He's a man off my own heart. He only likes League Two.
Yeah, I mean, that's curious, isn't it, really? But I guess they've made it worth his while.
It's a bit weird, isn't it? Why is that? I mean, he seems like a bit of a, I don't know. I never really got particularly good energy from him.
No.
So maybe just like they think, thanks very much, but like you can go now. We've had,
Yeah.
Dunno.
Yeah, anyway, curious. So that's who we've got a week Saturday, first home game of the season at St James Park. No limit on attendance. I think you can even pay by card now, which just seems mad. And I'm still going to walk to the cash machine just because that's what I always do. And
I mean, I'd imagine the club would. I don't know what it's like. I mean, you think businesses would want cash? I think cash is probably slightly better for them, isn't it? Still, so I don't know.
Cash is king.
I guess I'll probably still take cash. Cash is king. It's good, isn't it? We've got home game first day of the season. I think we're home on Boxing Day again as well, and it's like exciting times, isn't it? Like
a few nice ones. Bristol Rovers away, I think. Not penultimate game of the season, but the one before, so that could be really good.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, end of April. Yeah, nice.
We'll be promoted by then. So it'll be a big old party day out.
Promotion party.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the state of affairs. Oh, then there's Wycombe Wanderers in the Carabao first round. That's the first Tuesday after the Bradford game. A couple of nice home games to get started. That's home as well. David Wheeler coming back to say hello. So very nice.
What's his name?
Ainsworth.
What's his name? Gareth Ainsworth with his cowboy boots.
Yeah. And his moderate rock band stylings. So a couple of nice games to get into, and maybe I don't want to speak out of turn here, but maybe there'll be some sort of delicious pasty treat available.
I would assume so. Isn't there going to be a new kiosk or something for the big bank? I've heard some talk of that.
Oh, really?
Maybe I've made that up, but I thought maybe it's going to be.
It's the kind of thing you dream of. And
I'd like to see a few new items.
I'd love to see a few new items, but then I'd also be reassured when it was just the same. And then there's a new pitch, of course, that we've spent quite a lot of money on, and not yet, but a new scoreboard coming.
Yeah, all those kind of exciting accoutrements.
Indeed. And then something else worth talking about, the new away kit. You don't like it, and I do like it.
No, I mean, overwhelmingly, sort of the opinion from the internet people, good people at the internet, seems to be positive. Most people think it's really nice. I hate it, and I think it's in my view, it's our worst ever kit.
Wow.
Maybe.
Wow.
Last season's away kit wasn't much better, but this one, I don't like it at all.
I do like it. I think it's Nice.
If you agree with me, have a little. You might be thinking, "Oh, Joma, they would only make like the worst kits." Have a little look at Swansea's home kit, also made by Joma. Absolute beauty.
Yeah,
so we
that
know
is
they're
nice.
capable of it. I'm just a bit disappointed in it, and it's got these like bright pink garish socks. I haven't got a problem with pink kits, by the way. Some of my favourite kits are pink. But I just think it's horrible, and it's more the grey, blacky, whatever the hell is that. But that I object to. But whatever. Here's the most interesting kit news. It looks like we're going to be wearing red shorts with the home kit.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't know, really. It's not really us, is it? I mean, I think there was a couple of times when I looked back, I sort of vaguely could remember us doing it before, and I think it's maybe around like 2000, 2001. There was a season where we wore red shorts. I don't know. It's a little bit Stevenage, isn't it? But whatever. Mix it up a bit. Could be good. Does look quite smart.
There's a third kit coming as well that we've heard rumours of.
We've heard rumours of it being blue.
Yeah. What kind of blue?
Yeah. Strong rumours. I don't know. You think maybe? I don't know. We've had all sorts of blue kits in the past, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. That's true. So that's coming up. Well, listeners, thanks for tuning in for our season preview. And before we go, of course, last year only one of you entered into the predictions of the year competition.
Yeah, and he won. So
he won. So if that's not incentive enough, I don't know what is. So we've got some categories, and I'm inviting Dan to join in with this here. So Dan, have you got a bit of paper?
Yeah.
All right. So here's the categories, and listeners, play along at home, of course.
Yeah, and then just send them in to us however you want. Just, it's not hard.
No, we accept all forms of correspondence. So here's the questions. Ready? Question number 1. Exeter City FC, league position for the season 21-22. League position. Okay?
Yeah.
This might be the same answer, but who are your league winners?
So you've got Exeter City's first position, and then who's going to win the league separately, right?
That's right. Yeah. No, you might say it's Exeter City. That's fine. But you might say someone else. Who is the Exeter City Player of the Year as voted for? Like the official one. Who's the official Player of the Year?
Player of the Year.
And who is the top scorer?
Top scorer. Both those two categories last season went to Matt J, didn't they?
They did indeed. What is your surprise of the year? Don't mean player, I mean what's going to happen that no one's expecting?
It could be player though, couldn't it? We have done that in the past.
Could be player, could be,
like if for some reason ends up being, McArdle comes back and, shocks us all by, I don't know,
piercing his scrotum a second time. That would be a surprise.
At least he's left his mark.
Yeah. Yikes. It could be Paul Tisdale comes back as director of football. Whatever you think.
Don't.
Yeah.
Don't get my hopes up.
And final question. Where the hell is Nicky Ajose now?
Hang on, we got a few others here, and we were most reds.
Oh yeah, all right. Most red cards. That's a good one. Okay, but yeah. Next question. And where the hell is Nicky Ajose?
Biggest win.
Biggest win. Okay, that's a good one.
Biggest loss.
And we just want the scores there. Okay.
Yeah. That's not who it's against or anything.
No.
Just biggest win, biggest loss, and where will Nicky Ajose end up?
And I don't mean he's gone to Carlisle. I mean literally, where is he?
It could be either. If he does end up at Carlisle and you get that right, great. Well done. But also, if he ends up working in How on Earth Delhi, down on South Street, then you get that right, then you'll win. And I don't know what you'll win, but if you listen to the one last year, I won't necessarily try and do an impression of you when I'm reading out your answers. Okay, so don't let that put you off. Maybe include it. Maybe include your accent in there if you want, or maybe the kind of timbre that you would like me to do the impression in.
Oh, like, where's Nicky Jose now? I think
And
Nicky Jose works at Richer Sounds, like that.
Yeah, no, you could say, "Here's my answers," and I have a very deep Devonshire accent.
So you might say in your deep Devonshire voice, I think the surprise of the year was Taggy puts himself on for the Carabao.
Yeah,
You might say that.
exactly.
And we can do that for you. We're offering that service.
Yeah. If you don't want that, you can just put nothing. If you put nothing in the box where it says what voice you've got, you can just put nothing, and we'll just read it out normally.
Yeah, but why would you choose that when you get this kind of range of accents? So, as always, you can correspond with us, but we can't guarantee that we won't mock you a bit. We might be delighted at your input. We might give you short shrift. So get in touch with us in all the normal ways. Of course, we're on Twitter at Big Bank Pod. We're on Facebook, the Big Bang Theory Podcast. And you can email us, bigbankpod@gmail.com. We love those. And we also love the reviews you leave us. And we really appreciate it. Thank you for doing that. We hope that this isn't obsolete by the time you listen to it. But we may well sign an attacking duo tomorrow. And everything we've said...
It's the nature of the beast, isn't it? I mean, you can't. We're sort of second guessing things to an extent, and that's just. It's not as bad as print media, is it? Do you mean when nowadays they print a newspaper, and by the time it's out, none of it's true anymore.
No, so we're better than that. But anyway, we'll do our best. So here we are. This has been our season preview. We'll be back after the Wickham game to tell you about the highs and lows of our league start and how we're getting on in the Carabao Cup as well.
Yeah.
Exciting times. See you there. See you at St James Park, listeners, I hope. And if not, maybe you can come and leave a wreath at my cardboard cutout shrine on my road. Both things are welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
I'm gonna come and gob on it.
Oh, goodness me. Do you know?
And leave the wreath.
Here's the thing.
I'll gob on it and then I'll leave a apology wreath.
Well, apology accepted. Thank you. Here's a fact, listeners. I've got 2 window cleaners because I can't bring myself to get rid of either one. But they manage to come about a day apart every time. I don't know how they do it. So my windows.
Doesn't the second one notice that the windows are sort of gleaming when he turns up?
I don't think so.
And obviously he's not going to say anything because he wants the money. This reminds me of when a mutual friend of ours a mutual friend of ours had a housemate while he's at university in South Wales who. It wasn't our friend, but his housemate was paying rent and living across 2 different properties because he couldn't bring himself to tell either set of housemates that he was moving out. So he just rented 2 houses.
Which is one way, I suppose, one way of appeasement, but
expensive, isn't it? Expensive appeasement.
So my window cleaning budget is £10 a month when it could be 5. But anyway, there we are. All these people gobbing,
get another one.
Gobbing on
See
my
how many
window.
you can get before one of them says something.
Well, if people keep spitting on my windows, I'm going to need more, aren't I?
Guess how many window cleaners I've got?
How many?
None.
I can recommend 2 good ones.
If you're a window cleaner, get
in touch.
Come and do my windows.
Thanks for listening, everyone. My name's John. I've been here with my friend and colleague Dan.
Yeah, cheers.
See you soon.